It's the 1st of December, it's time to kick off our Christmas content advent calendar. What does that mean? It means you're going to get a brand new video, a brand new tutorial, a really interesting video about something in photography every single day from the 1st through to the 24th of December. No longer will you have to wait till Tuesday to get your tutorial fixed. Now it's going to be every day. And what's more exciting is, as I explained this to you on the 1st, I have not filmed them all at all. It's not like I'm well ahead. I'm doing this as we go. So if there's anything you want to see, let me know down in the comments, because there's absolutely room to include some stuff. There's 24 slots available. So, let me know down there if there's anything you want to see in particular. Today, though, we're going to kick things off by talking about silhouette photography. Now, this is a really interesting form of photography. It's something that it's relatively easy to get to grips with and to kind of master the basics of it, and then there's loads of ways you can be creative with it. And silhouette photography, if you're not super familiar with it, I'll pop some examples up on the screen now, but it's essentially where you've got a nice bright background and your foreground is in shadow. So whether that's a person, some sort of landscape, something in the landscape that's just dark and is just cutting a dark shape across your photo. Can look really, really cool, and there's lots of different things you can do with it. You can go for a full silhouette where you've just got a completely black shape kind of cutting through something like a sunset sky, or you can go for a silhouette where you're just getting a little bit of light wrapping around whatever your subject. So if, let's say you've got a model and you're using them as a silhouette against a sunsetty sky, you can just get a little bit of detail, maybe a catchlight in the eye, maybe just the side of their face starting to illuminate. Essentially, it's backlighting whatever your subject is, whether that is a person, a landscape, or anything else. So let's talk about two main things when it comes to silhouette photography, how to kind of master the basics of this, which is where and when to shoot, and then how to expose for this kind of photo. So let's start with where and when to shoot. So if you want to go with a natural light situation, if you want to go with a nice landscapey kind of image rather than lighting this yourself, you're going to need a situation where the sun is much lower in the sky, creating a very directional kind of light. Now, for obvious reasons, sunrise and sunset are going to work best for this, and you'll see a lot of silhouette photography, certainly if it's out in natural light, is based around those kind of times of day. It can actually work really well after sunset as well. So just after the sun has set and there's still light in the sky is relatively bright. It's bright enough at least to take a photo. But if you've got your subject standing against that bright sky, they are going to be pretty much just in shadow. And certainly if you expose correctly, they will just be a black shape in this otherwise nice sunset kind of sky. So for example, in these photos, it was down by the seafront, the sun was kind of beginning to set, and I was positioning my subject in such a way that the sun would be behind her, so backlighting her, so that she just falls into shadow. Now in some of these, I actually got her to turn, and I just got a little bit of wraparound light around her face, just enough to kind of pick out the features. So that's something you can do with silhouette photography. You can kind of be a little bit creative with what you want to show and how you want the photo to look. So whether, like I said earlier, you want a completely dark shape, or whether you want to have a bit of wraparound so you get a bit of context for what's going on. In this photo, again, it's coming towards sunset, and I'm using the cliffs to kind of create a silhouette against the sunset with the sea nicely exposed as well, which I really like. Almost anything can make a great silhouette. If it's a really defined shape, that's going to help a lot. So a person, anything like a lighthouse, like a structure someone's going to know, a really interesting or intricate piece of landscape is going to look great. And as long as you can position it so that it's against a bright sky, something that's backlighting it, you're going to get a great result. Now let's talk a little bit about how you would expose this kind of photo. Now, you absolutely want to be exposing for the highlights, which means you're going to be stopping down, which means you're going to be using a faster shutter speed. You're not going to be cranking up that ISO, because you want whatever the bright situation is, so sunset sky, for example, you want that to be nicely exposed, leaving whatever's in the foreground, whether it's a person or a landscape, in darkness. So for example, in these photos, I was exposing so that the sky looked nice in the photo. It was exposed nicely. You know, the sun is there. That's always a difficult one because that's super bright. And I personally prefer it to be a little bit blown out rather than get this weird situation where I've got a perfectly exposed sun. That seems crazy to me. But similarly here, I've got the sunset sky nicely exposed. The sea is exposed as well because it's kind of reflecting that light. But the cliffs, which are backlit from here, are just in shadow, they're just in darkness. Shooting manual is relatively easy because you can just set the shutter speed, aperture, things like that, so that the sky is nicely exposed. If you are going to shoot with auto ISO or something like aperture priority, you can use the exposure compensation dial to just go down to sort of -1, maybe even -2 stops, depending on the situation. If your camera tries to start adjusting to actually expose your subject, you want to change that because you want the sky to be completely exposed properly and your subject to just be in darkness. Some other tips for if you're using a person as a silhouette, some things to take into account is the kind of profile that they're going to cut through the photo. If you turn them to the side, it might make a more interesting photo than straight on, because if you can't make out the features, then they're just kind of a black shape, whereas side on, you at least get the profile of the person. Having someone look out at this sunset or something like that can often look really good. That can kind of create almost like a mini little story within the photo. And if you're doing a wider shot with kind of more of the landscape in the shot, that can be great as well, because that can just help to kind of bring everything together, create this context for where this person is standing, what they're looking out at, and just bring the whole thing together. It almost becomes a little bit of an environmental portrait. So that's going really just into the basics of silhouette photography, but if you can master those basics, so the where and the when to shoot, so sunrise, sunset, using that kind of sky to backlight your subject and exposing for the sky, if you can master all of that, you're well on your way to getting some great silhouette photos. And then it's just about being creative, you know, creating interesting looking subjects, whether it's someone leaping in the air and they're just a silhouette with the sunset in the background, or whether you got anything else. You know, this can be a great opportunity to do some street photography as well, where you get some nice candid photos, but with a silhouette involved. It can look really, really nice. Now, if you have any tips of your own for silhouette photography, pop them down in the comments. We've barely scratched the surface, to be honest, of silhouette photography. So if you've got anything else you want to add, pop it down there. I love reading through all of that. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe, because there's new stuff coming every single day. Woo! And we are going to go into some more in-depth subjects. We're going to cover editing, we're going to cover practical photography, we're going to cover all kinds of stuff. Make sure to subscribe, make sure to like the video as well if you enjoyed it, because that always helps out the channel. I will see you tomorrow, and as always, thanks for watching.